Take a look at the sprawling interior of the Indian Parliament building. It's grand, it's imposing, and honestly, it's a little intimidating. But, when you look at these rows and rows of empty seats, it really begs a crucial question. Is democracy just about grand architecture? I mean, is it really just about formal institutions, official buildings, and these empty benches waiting for politicians to finally take their seats? Which brings us to the real question here. Where does the true power of a democracy actually live? If it's not just sitting in the brick and mortar of parliament buildings or trapped within the pages of heavy legal texts, where is it? Well, the truth is, democracy requires active, breathing participation. It is definitely not a spectator sport. It lives in the streets, in the everyday conversations we have, and in the choices we make every single day. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to explore democracy, India's living ecosystem. We really need to stop thinking of democracy as just a static textbook term or some dusty set of rules. It's not. It is a living, evolving ecosystem that absolutely needs constant care, adaptation, and your participation to survive and thrive. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. First, the roots of Indian democracy. Then we'll look at the core democratic principles, followed by a comparison of global democracies. After that, we'll cover the challenges to the system, and finally, your role in democracy. All right, starting with part 1, the deep roots. We'll be tracing democratic traditions from early times. It's incredibly easy to assume that Indian democracy was just suddenly imported or magically switched on in 1947, when the country gained independence. But actually, scratch that. The reality is that the democratic ethos has a deep, rich cultural heritage woven into the very fabric of the subcontinent over thousands of years. If we trace our history all the way back to the ancient era, the Rig Veda emphasizes collective thinking, shared discussion, and unity of purpose through assemblies called the Sabha and Samiti. Fast forward a bit to the 6th century BCE, and you've got the Buddhist Sanghas established by Gautama Buddha, actively practicing collective voting, debate, and consensus. Then, of course, the 19th century brought British colonization, which severely limited citizens' political participation and disrupted this natural evolution. But those roots, they survived underground. They fueled the independence movement right up until 1946, when the Constituent Assembly was formed to draft a robust constitution for a newly independent India. And when that Constituent Assembly gathered together, the sheer diversity of thought and representation in the room was absolutely staggering. Just imagine the scene. These individuals took exactly 2 years, 11 months, and 18 days of rigorous debate and discussion to draft the world's longest written constitution. They didn't just want a rigid legal code. They wanted a dynamic, living document capable of evolving through lawful amendments to meet the changing socio-political needs of a modern republic. Moving right along to part 2, the blueprint. Let's look at the core democratic principles. So, the crucial point is, now that we have this living document drafted by the Assembly, we have to look at the non-negotiable principles that form the very DNA of this democratic ecosystem. And the absolute foundational principle here is popular sovereignty. In a democracy, the ultimate source of power doesn't come from a monarch, it doesn't come from a dictator, or even the parliament building itself. It comes entirely from the people. The state derives all its authority directly from citizens who elect their representatives through free and fair elections. And this whole process runs on the universal adult franchise, which simply means every single citizen, 18 and older, has the fundamental right to vote through a secret ballot. Now, to really grasp what popular sovereignty means in practice, you just have to look at the sheer numbers. Over 96.8 crore registered voters in 2024. Let that sink in. That is nearly 1 billion people. India is literally the world's largest participatory democracy. The scale of this ecosystem is just mind-blowing. On average, a single member of parliament represents about 2.5 million people. Bringing an abstract theory into reality on this massive, unprecedented scale is without a doubt one of the greatest administrative and social feats in human history. But of course, the immense power of the majority must always be balanced, and that is exactly the job of our fundamental rights. From guaranteeing equality and freedom of religion to protecting against exploitation and ensuring constitutional remedies, these rights act as a powerful shield. They ensure individual dignity is safeguarded and that no citizen is discriminated against on the basis of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth, basically guaranteeing equal protection under the law for everyone, no exceptions. Which brings us to part 3, the global forest. Let's get some global democracies compared here. To truly understand the mechanics of our own democratic ecosystem, it helps immensely to zoom out a bit. And this brilliantly illustrates that when we compare international blueprints, we see some vast differences. So while India operates as a parliamentary democracy, kind of like Canada and the UK, where executive power lies with the prime minister, it diverges by being a republic rather than a constitutional monarchy. Switzerland, on the other hand, operates a direct democracy, where the federal council holds executive power. And over in the USA, it's a presidential system. Seeing these structures side by side really highlights that while the core goal of empowering people is exactly the same, the architectural blueprint can look vastly different from place to place. Next up is part 4, Weathering the Storm. Time to talk about challenges to the democratic system. A vibrant ecosystem is a beautiful thing, but like any ecosystem in nature, it is undeniably fragile. It faces severe storms, pressures, and stress tests that can threaten its very foundation. A very significant historical example of such a storm is the 1975 to 1977 emergency. This was a period where a national emergency was imposed by the government on the grounds of internal disturbance. As detailed in our sources, it was a profound stress test for the nation's institutions. A majority of fundamental rights were suspended, the press was censored, and democratic institutions came under severe strain. However, and this is key, it also sparked massive citizen mobilization. We saw mass movements led by figures like J. Prakash Narayan, clearly demonstrating how the democratic ecosystem can push back, test its own resilience, and ultimately aim to restore its balance. Today, though, that storm looks a bit different. We face a stark contrast between informed public debate and the rapid spread of fake news and misinformation. Unchecked digital misinformation spreading like wildfire through social media can heavily manipulate public opinion, create massive confusion, and even lead to conflict. While informed, factual debate is the pure oxygen of a healthy democracy, fake news acts like a literal toxin in the ecosystem. Honestly, it's one of the most pressing challenges we face in maintaining trust in our institutions today. And finally, part 5, Nutrients for Growth. What is your role in democracy? So, how do we fight off these toxins and strengthen the system? Well, this is where we shift focus entirely to you, because you provide the essential nutrients needed to keep this whole system thriving. Civic duty isn't just some boring chore to check off a list. It is your ultimate power. Be media literate. Actively verify the information you consume to fight fake news. Understand the Constitution and follow your fundamental duties. Utilize powerful tools like the Right to Information Act of 2005 to legally demand transparency from public authorities. Participate in local governance, like the Panchayati Raj system, to actually affect change right in your own neighborhood. Or engage in community service through student corps like the National Service Scheme, or NSS, and the National Cadet Corps, the NCC. These are the daily habits that hold power accountable and truly nourish the ecosystem. Now, what's really interesting about this is just how vital the younger generation is. Youth participation is the absolute lifeblood of a responsive democracy. Whether you're analyzing news critically, engaging in a fiery student council debate, or speaking up at a local village Gram Sabha council meeting, your voice is what shapes the future of the nation. It all starts with thoughtful conversations and civic engagement in everyday life. Which leaves us with this final, profound question. Is voting alone enough to make a country democratic? I want you to really linger on that. Think about it. If we only participate once every few years at the ballot box, are we truly sustaining the ecosystem? Democracy is a daily, ongoing practice of fairness, accountability, and respect. It absolutely requires your attention and your action. Keep questioning, keep participating, and thank you so much for exploring this fascinating topic with me.